You are listening to Be Simply, and this is Suzanne Toro, and I want to welcome you to this inner work segment.
Stars, trees, clouds, and the moon. They all have a meaning and they look just like you.
We are going to dive into our inner work today and focus on the element of wood and anger and all the contributing factors that connect us with this push-pull that we have between anger and then actually grief, which is simultaneously connected and is the polarity that's happening here on the earth plane between the northern and southern hemisphere of our planet. And also this tension between the two are what help counterbalance the experience, especially when cooperating situations cause anger or grief, and then they get into this beautiful dance with one another. So this aspect of suppressed anger, because our society as a whole utilizes anger in a very interesting way. It's almost in a barbaric way only, and we don't functionally know how to use anger in real time because it can be a very potent, toxic energy that can cause a lot of harm. However, that rising is really important because it gives the chi, the energy to lift up and push things out that no longer serve. Because when we suppress anger, it gets stored in our mental body, our physical body, our emotional body, and our soul body. And if we carry that from on into our eternal, into our next, those resonances can still be there. And that's why from the East, we can have things that are left behind, like a battlefield. There will be energy left behind, an imprint that there was a battlefield there. Same if there's a burial ground, there's an imprint left where that burial ground is, whether people are aware of it or not. And so anger is this really potent energy that in nature, in the wintertime, we have wood rising. And that wood is the chi, it's the action needed for the rebirth after winter and the element of water have been held and kind of frozen, left to germinate. And when we don't have a place for that wood to rise up, it can do one of two things in particular. It can really cause a lot of destruction and might over encroach in areas where it doesn't belong. And then also it could become like a hungry ghost where it's grasping at things and wanting to satiate the energy that's rising without holding on to it and really looking at where do I want to place this. And so this first part of that suppressed anger is just to realize in a day-to-day basis, and we'll go through this, like how to work with it, but just to understand that when we store anger, one, it's going to end up in our mind, usually in the front place first, where we have rumination, distraction. It moves us away from being in the present moment and could lead to delusions and vendetta. And this is ancestrally what can be passed down through our lineage with one another, is that if we don't really work out these situations, they stay there and they keep cycling around like, the helix of our DNA, just turning and turning and turning, and it never has a place to go. And so the suppressed anger is there. It's in your eternal being, which can carry over culturally. That's why you can see, if you map out the world's history, and you can see certain cultures have a greater imprint of this vendetta, this payback, based on how many battles have been fought there. And so it's something that we can really learn from if we look at, and then we can look at places where there haven't been as many battles fought there, and there's less culturally method of going towards rumination and cycling and getting back and attachment to vindicate something that has already passed. And then the emotional body, when we suppress anger, has suffering. And then it's possible that depending where that's stored, oftentimes that's in the heart, liver, lungs. Liver is the one in Chinese medicine, that eventually that will create an imbalance in your system. And then that imbalance will show up in the physical body. And so there's all these touch points that have a cause and effect with suppression of anger. Now, the key here is to, as a society, learn how to really work with anger and how to create a pause before we do something destructive. And so this is a like releasing of a valve. And in our society right now, historically, there's been a lot of wars fought in the springtime because there's this historical passed down ancestry that's rising up that wants to resolve a battle that was fought long before here. And then we have our internal battles that are connected to that. And so as we do our inner work, it's always good to go from the inside out. And then this helps us with our interpersonal relationships, keeping it from the micro to the macro. And that'll make you better family members, better friends, better leaders, better business owners, all those things, so that you can see clearly and objectively. So one of the beautiful thing is to understand that when you feel the fire rising up, that oftentimes what happens is a person, place, or thing, group of people that have been oppressed, a person that's been oppressed, taken advantage of. And this was a dance that was the old world of the perpetrator, victim, and the enabler. And so no matter what role you've played in it, we've all played many parts of this cycle, because we've been cycling for many, many millennia in this route, and we're ready to like graduate and move on, because we know our consciousness knows that one, energy doesn't dissipate. It just changes form. So actually destroying something prematurely has a cosmic debt, and it then feeds the cycle that's ready to be liberated. So the liberation and the maturity come in when one starts to have the wherewithal to create a pause and to walk around what's rising up. So innately, if you think back to something that causes you anger or historically causes you anger, if you bring it back to yourself and really start to walk around it, maybe it's a scenario, maybe it's abuse that happened to you, maybe it's something you don't even understand, but you start to walk around it and walk around yourself when you become unhinged and ask yourself what's really needed. Oftentimes when one is in this process, you will see all faces of yourself. You will want to wrestle. You will want to throw that energy outside of you, blame someone, make ultimatums, make conditions, and all these things that really, it's like, okay, let's look at what's going on here. And imagine if each human on planet Earth starts to take that responsibility of really looking inward and be like, okay, I feel the fire. I feel that wood coming up, and I'm ready to look at it and examine it. And now in the day of quote unquote tech, we've gotten really used to going out and attacking people in cyberspace. It's really hard to have a constructive conversation because people are ready to put people down, to really act like the kindergartner or the third grader in a sandbox and just throw sand, but not have emotional maturity to have a conversation. So the first aspect of how to work with anger is to recognize it when it's there. And if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed and you're cohabitating with people, one person or many, it's really important to let people know. Let them know, like, hey, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, because no matter what has to be said or what needs to be resolved, it's not going to get done when your affect, your emotions are out of the ballpark, and it will cause harm to you and to someone else. So let people know if you need to. If not, you can take that moment to create a pause, create a little bit more space. Maybe you're going into a busy day of meetings. Maybe push everything back a little bit so you can ground. Maybe get up a little earlier once you start noticing it, you're tossing and turning. Set your alarm a little earlier and get up for a workout. Create space. Once you have that space, that's where you want to start walking around the energy. You want to be like, what is happening? And you'll go through the scenarios where you want to literally implode your reality because of what's rising up inside of you. And once you have an understanding of what was not met, what need was not met, why the emotion is here, what you've realized, and what really is needed for yourself. And ultimately, when anyone's been perpetrated on, because this is typically where anger comes from, is a perpetration, a violation, and there were probably a bunch of other emotions leading up to this one. But when one realizes that, what's happening and where that's from, then the resolve can start to happen. And we'll work with that in a moment. But for right now, it's just literally saying, okay, I need to walk around the situation that I can source this to, and the location of where the roots are. But it's beyond those roots. It's not just the situation, because that situation that is occurring has occurred many times over. And until you really, really look at it, you're not going to see the deeper nature of it. It's not the horrible relationships that you've gotten yourself in time and time again. It's not the abuse that you've went through. It's not you agreeing to all these things. There's something deeper that is of great value to you. And that value that you need and want to uphold is your responsibility to hold up for yourself from the inside out. And what that does is that keeps you from compromising that value and then getting into situations that your inner code of ethics don't agree with. And this is when that fire rises up. Because if we think about anger and protection, that is when it's to be used, meaning that when someone is perpetrating someone that's not able to protect themselves, like a mama bear with her cubs, she steps in and lays down the line. So what's happened to our society is we've forgotten how to uphold that energy for ourselves and what we need to do to support ourselves. And the more adults that get equipped with understanding that they have a value, a couple values within you, don't have 20 values. Keep it simple till you learn how to embody these values, 2, 3 values. And every time that you compromise that value, you're going to have this embed of anger rise up because you've let yourself down. And then what happens is that you're in settings that are not honoring that value that you hold so dear, and it actually becomes suppressed anger because you did not respect yourself. So I want you just to sit with that for a moment and think about, like, where have I not honored my inner values, and where did that become manifest into anger, maybe now or in the most recent past. So from here, once you create the pause, we want to talk about how to dissipate this energy. So it's not just about like pausing and calming down and not doing anything with it. When you have the alchemical moment that anger is rising, it's a really potent and powerful time. And that's why I recommend, if it's there, you work with it right on the spot. And if you can, alter your schedule a little bit, move it around. This will really help. And the less people you involve, the better. And the way you can know that it's time to engage and have a conversation that could be constructive is that you know where you are. You can do a math problem, maybe a little bit like maybe triple digits or 4 digits times 4 digits, and that you're not feeling uncomfortable on the inside. That would be when you know you're ready to address it for yourself and you're also ready to have a conversation. But before we get there, we want to talk about how we can really start to dissolve that energy, let it out, because that's what that eruption is. That's what the anger eruption is. If you're not needing to protect someone or move someone out of harm's way, then it's saying your inner being, your electromagnetic field, your biofield is saying, hey, we got to get this out, up and out. And the more that you become seasoned with this practice and master this practice, you will do less damage to yourself and people around you. And you'll notice that the pendulum doesn't have to go from 0 to 100 or 0 to 80. You will not be stepping on the gas that strong. You'll be like, oh, it's rising. And then you'll have this really little rise and bring it back down, dissipate, and then you'll be able to really dance fluid with this energy. And you will also get to a point where you can harness that energy, which is really powerful. So what this looks like is that when you've identified that you're not needing to get someone out of danger, you're not needing to protect your children or your family or, a group of people at your office, whatever, you're realizing like, whoa, this is something stored deep inside of me. And then you can look out and be like, what is triggering this? Like, what is the mirror on the outside world that's triggering this? And it's not that situation that you necessarily need to react to, because you've already determined you don't need to protect anyone, but something is setting it off. And so that is an internal landmine that came from the outside energy saying, hey, all these conditions have corroborated and we're here to help you out. So once you see that and you've allowed yourself to create a pause and a safe space to be, then it's an opportunity to dissipate that energy. And so one thing that really helps, because we're also dealing with the liver channel where it stores anger and lungs. That's why lungs are grief and liver, and they're right there together. And our heart is our emotional center. So all three of these organs are just like all tapping at you. And we want to keep the energy flowing. We want to keep the toroidal field with your blood moving just effortlessly. We want your liver to be moving effortlessly so it can get the waste out that's no longer needed in the physical, emotional, and spiritual body and the mental body. And we want our lungs to be free, not inhibited by grief. So it takes courage, and that's what our heart will give us. The less stuff we've stored there and the less grief we've stored in our lungs and our liver. So once you've created the safe space and you realize, okay, that mirror on the outside, whatever that condition was, is representing where as I mentioned earlier, that the self, has let self down. And that would be tied back to your values of maybe you were, always doing for others, and you did put yourself aside so many times that whatever on the external is reminding you that you have self-sacrificed, you haven't taken care of yourself. And that caused a whole series of events. It could cause you to lose everything in your material world. It could cause you to get in harm's way. All these things. It could cause you to lose your sanity. All these things that you are angry about because you didn't want to lose them. So once you identify the value, and it'll come in like a simple thing like truth, honesty. Why do you think thematically humanity, everyone's fixated on truth? They're fixated on seeing what is. And that's the other part of our physical body that's connected to our liver channel in springtime, and also our intuition, our additional way of seeing. So once you've identified that, wow, this is connected to X, Y, Z, whatever it might be, I encourage you to that value, start shaking it off. Just bounce where you are, swing your arms, or go on a walk if you can. If you're at work and you can't do any of that, we'll do a couple things with our breath that can help with it. But if you can, go for a walk around the block. If you can, go bounce it off. If you can't do it right then, make a commitment to yourself that you're going to recall this moment and you're going to shake it out of the system. what that shaking does, as you might be hearing my dog in the background, I like to keep it raw and real, is that animals, when they feel something that's not right to them, they immediately will shake it off after they leave the situation. So the same for you is when something rises up that doesn't feel aligned, you want to shake it off immediately and acknowledge where that came from. And that's when you see that value. And the truth is not proving the external lie. It's honoring the internal truth within you, which is a value that you hold very dear. And I can tell you from working with people for past several decades is that truth and honesty are something that people hold dearly, and they feel betrayed when they've been lied to. And oftentimes in relationships, it's hard to get past that, but we're all going to have compassion and equanimity, because the construct of the world that we've co-created has been built upon non-truths, not on lies. And so now we're going through this metamorphosis where there is a lot of anger, and a lot of that needs shaken off. And really what needs to be embraced is that value. And so for this example, I'm using truth. It may be honesty, like in relationship to yourself. If you're honest with yourself, you won't be in places you are not aligned to. And that's how you respect yourself. And then guess what? You're not hanging out with people that are lying to you or manipulating you or harming you or oppressing you. You are shifting the dynamic. And that ripple impacts how a whole society's run. Because look at the optics right now. People see where have been manipulated, and they haven't honored that value. And so I'm giving you one example, but it can be many variations of that. It could be kindness. It could be nonviolence. It could be all these things like, oh, nonviolence is so important to me that I've allowed myself to compromise on that. And now I'm angry, and now I want to hurt someone, So it's actually being like, oh, I have to hold that. And how am I going to hold it? And how do I show up in society holding that honors it from within and allows the outside world to honor what's important to them? Because if each one of us are honoring a few values within us, then the world becomes much more holistic and well for everyone. And there's just no more compromise. So there are no compromises on the jagged edges. It's time to polish them. So when we want to get this to dissipate, you really want to imagine, like animals do, they shake it off. Trees do it. They shake it off and the energy dissipates, and then it can go back into the system and be utilized for something else. And that's why if you can harness it before you destroy with it, you're going to be better off. Because one, you won't have a cause and effect with it. And number two, you will be able to move into what we'll talk about next, fluid action. So the other thing that you can do, if you can't go for a walk, you can't go for a run, a swim, you can't dance it off, shake it off, is you can do what's called a lion's breath. And this is so perfect because we want to roar like that mama bear to get back away from you or the situation, but you can't. So this lion's breath is really helpful because it gives you permission. Again, you probably don't want to do this at the meeting, but maybe you need to. Or you go into your office, you go to your car, you go to a private place and do this if you're in a public setting. Or if you're at home, you can do this at home. You can go to your room and do this. But you're going to just gently, if you do yoga, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you're going to gently breathe in up through your nose. And then you're going to exhale with your tongue out. Releasing that anger. Inhale. Exhale, extend your tongue out. Inhale. Exhale with that tongue out. Again, inhale. And exhale. And you keep repeating this, and you can take a pause. And as you do that, you will be actually releasing the suffering that you've been storing in your body. The same with the dancing, the same with bilateral movement. It helps move the energy in the body and gets everything back in balance and harmony. doing a series of those breaths, especially in the moment of anger, will help dissipate that out of the system and keep it from being stored, because we don't want the valve, or we don't want your system to keep getting overloaded and then you're too hot, and then all your energies going to have to be refocused on keeping you cooler, calmer, and grounded, when you could just stay at neutral and move through life much more effortlessly. So with that being said, I just want to give you a little visualization that you can do if, like I said, you're in a situation where you can't get to your own private place and you're really in it, you're wrestling with yourself. I just want you to put a pencil in your hand or a pen, grab a piece of paper, and I just want you to start doodling, scribbling. You don't have to even look at your hand while we do this. And then you can gaze at the piece of paper with your hand or another spot around you. And then I want you to imagine yourself, and you might even notice that you start to draw in circles, that you're the lion. And you start circling that situation. And you start having a deeper understanding where it's come from. And rather than destroy, you are going to actually harness it as a lion. You're going to bring it into your nest, if you will. You'll bring it into your cave, and you're going to hold it there so you can work with the energy. And lions are not, unless they're going in for food, they are very calm beings. So you're pacing yourself, you're calming down, you're getting the wisdom around what this is, and you're drawing it in. And as you draw it in, you're going to bring it into your den, into your cave. And into that cave, as you draw it in, you've circled around enough times, your hand's still circling it, you're going to draw it into your cave. And you're going to take it way back into the earth, and you're going to bury it. And just imagine this where you are. You've circled it. You understand the value that you didn't uphold for yourself. You're going to take all of that muck that was the manifestation of not valuing that for self, or having someone around you to hold that for you, someone that could keep you safe, whatever it might be. And you're going to take that and put it in the cave, and you're going to bury it in the cave deep into the den. You don't have to worry about it even being in there, because the earth is going to do her magic and dissipate it all. So as you do that, as you visualize yourself taking it in there, leaving it in, you're going to come out of that den and you're going to close it up, because that's an old set. That's an old place where you used to sleep. That's a place where you carried that energy, and we're going to let Mother Earth handle that. You're going to leave it. Just leave it. And then you keep repeating this for yourself, just visually. You could even be sitting at a meeting, visualizing yourself taking it and putting it in there, closing up the side of the mountain, and return to the present moment. And in that moment, you've created a freedom within yourself. You should feel a little lighter. And I encourage you can pause it here and keep working with that till you feel that, okay, it doesn't have me as tight. Doesn't mean that it won't come up again, but you've identified it. You've identified the value it's associated with. You've released it with your breath, hopefully, or movement, or by visualizing yourself taking it deep into the earth and closing it off so you no longer have to be connected to the energy of it. You're just releasing it. So from there, we're going to talk about patience and fluid action. Then we move into fluid action. So you've identified how this is potentially impacting your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual body, and or then you've created that pause and examine what and where and what value you haven't upheld from the inside out. And then from there, you dissipate. You work on this dissipation of the energy. And this can be a daily practice, especially in springtime. Movement is super helpful because it's a lot of phonetic energy, and it'll calm everything down and clear your mind so you can see clearly. Then from there, we have an opportunity to really harness patience and into fluid action. So what can happen, and that's why things move rapidly and get escalated rapidly, is because there's been this whole period where nature is creating all these reserves and these resources, aka water, the creation energy, and everything wants to sprout up. And so unresolved emotions like anger, grief, all those things, and it can come from a lot of envy, everything you could imagine. It rises up and it really needs patience. And so there's two things happening simultaneously. You're practicing, mastering what you didn't learn already, and you're also learning how to uphold this value that you neglected into fluid action. So let's say it is that example I gave, that you really value honesty and that you have worked your way into spotting it out inside the world, but you haven't really practiced embodying that in your day-to-day life. And this is true with the majority of humanity. If we even look at that word, like truth, people that are truth seekers, that are seeing, but are they really willing to look at self? And if they are truth seekers for self, they're realizing that that truth has to come from within. And that's radical honesty. So once you work at dissipating and really being patient with yourself as you get your sea legs about you, you'll be in fluid action because you realize like, wow, I value honesty and truth so much that, oh, this person came and is manipulating me. This person's lying. And then you're like, oh, that's a no for me. That's a no. And now you might say, well, what if the person needs a second chance? Well, we're right now at that point in humanity where we're beyond second chances. So think of it that way, that if everyone that's committed to their inner work holds firm to their values from the inside out without causing harm to other people, it will work rather quickly. And then that person that maybe was sent in to manipulate you one more time or suppress you one more time or harm you one more time, they will spin off into their next trajectory, and you will then start attracting people that share the same value as you. Remember, one or two, but if you work with the values on a seasonal basis, the value with anger is one, you value patience. And usually the things that make people angriest is when people are dishonest, they betray them, they steal them from them, they cheat, they do all these things, those 7 deadly sins. Those are really agitators in springtime. And so if you've experienced any of those, you would kind of look at the virtues of those as to being something that you have not upheld for yourself. It's really easy to see it in the outside world, but have you upheld that? And let's say we use the example of someone that's cheated you in one way or the other. It's because you haven't valued that you want to be in a respectful and reciprocal relationship. And because you didn't value that and you did not uphold it for yourself, you attract those cheaters. And so until you start respecting that from the inside out and do the work, be honest, don't steal, don't cheat, don't take, really practice reciprocation with yourself and others, it shifts the paradigm for you and everyone else. And that's when you sync up to your fluid motion, your fluid rhythm in the world. And that is so exciting. It's like so much fun to be in that place. And it's humbling when you're not. So I encourage you just to take, a moment after listening to these segments, whether you listen to it all the way through or in pieces, to really think about, okay, I historically get, we usually have a certain emotion that triggers us historically in a lifetime. And so if yours is anger, you're a little hot, you have too much, your pitta gets out of balance, this is a time just to think about it. And then if you're one of those people that has suppressed your anger and hasn't gotten mad, I encourage you to learn how to get mad and to really make sure that you understand this nuance, because there will be a time when someone pushes you too far and you explode back at them. And this is nothing to be ashamed about, but it's something that will eventually happen so that you can learn what patience truly is. It's not being the doormat. It's really having patience with yourself and then showing up and honoring the values from within. So as we exit out, I just want to thank you all for being here and just remind you that real-time inner work is the best way to go, because your past, present, and future are all working together. And if you can create the freedom to really walk around it, examine it, understand what you've neglected from the inside out, that'll allow you to shake it off and honor yourself moving forward so that changes can happen. You can explain away anything you want, but until you get radically honest with yourself, then you will have the opportunity to bring yourself back into balance, harmony, and be in fluid motion with that wood energy during the remainder of the springtime. So we're going to exit out with a little Kadri Scott from her new album, Higher, Just Me. It's perfect for this inner work series about self-love, honoring self first so that you can be strong and full for your tribe, for your family, for your community, for the people that are in and around you in your life. And may you all have the courage to look in, be radically honest with yourself, and dissipate that fire just enough so that you can be an alchemical agent for change here on the earth plane. Until next time, this is Suzanne signing out with a full heart, a soft gaze, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply.